Hello, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland. So, talking about the local election results from Thursday, the 4th of May, and almost all the results are now in. Well, the thing is, the Conservative and Unionist Party performed even worse than was forecast. So, it was thought that losing 1,000 seats would be quite bad. In fact, the Conservative Party's lost 1,058 seats. Labour's gained 536. So notably, of the Conservative losses, only around half have gone to the Labour Party, which of course is the UK's major opposition party, widely predicted to be the next governing party. The Liberal Democrats have gained 405. They're up to 1,626. So Labour, they've got a total of 2,674 seats and local councils out of this election. Remember, local elections the first Thursday of every May, but it's in a 4-year cycle. The place that had them this year haven't had them for 4 years and won't have them again for another 4 years. So the Conservatives are still the second biggest party of local government. But at this rate, at May next year, 2024, those local elections will probably mean, if Labour gains at a similar rate, that Labour will be the biggest party in local government. So, and the surprising thing is independents did very badly, down 80, as in independents don't belong to an organisation, you just stand as an individual. But the party that did best out of this was really the Greens, who went up by 241 seats to now have 481 councillors in the areas that held elections this year, so that they have doubled their number of councillors in that place. So then the resident associations, they lost 24 seats. It's obviously gone badly for the Conservatives, but there is a crumb of comfort. In terms of share of the vote, the Conservatives have done slightly better than was expected. They might say, well, that's what really matters. Now, sometimes there are local issues about, I think it's Plymouth cutting down a lot of trees in the area, and that's not something which can be extrapolated all across the United Kingdom. Individual candidates are popular or unpopular. So the Conservative Party lost control of 48 councils. Remember, there were various councils in England and Wales had local elections this time. Scotland and Northern Ireland's doing it later this month. Remember, it's only on Thursdays that elections and referenda are held in the United Kingdom. So some Conservatives are irate and they are piling the blame at number 10. But there appears to be no momentum to push out Rishi Sunak. There was a rumour of a plot for his ouster early this year, that Bojo was staging a comeback, but he's bottled it again, partly his mind and scandal yet again. And remember, Richard Sharp, who appointed chairman of the BBC, has just resigned as chair of the BBC. So Bojo is conspicuous by his absence from the airwaves, though he did show up at the coronation of King Charles III today. So he's been stony silent, which is very uncharacteristic for him. Though the Liberal Democrats had quite a good night. They've gained 12 councils. So Red Davey boasts their best result in decades. Now, admittedly, the Lib Dems are starting from a very low base when they're doing very badly. So yeah, I mean, they gained almost as many councillors as Labour did. Anyway, let me see. So the Greens have taken control of a council for the very first time, in mid-Suffolk. And surprisingly, the Greens, overwhelmingly an urban party, is they've done quite well in rural areas. Is London, Bristol, and perhaps a few other cities where the Greens did quite well. But Brighton and Hove, where they were the biggest party, they didn't actually control it, they weren't the majority. They've been overtaken by Labour. So Brighton on the south coast, the unofficial gay capital of the United Kingdom, the only Green MP ever in the UK is the MP for Brighton. But anyway, the Greens are no doubt be hoping to turn having council seats into having parliamentary seats. So the Prime Minister was forced to acknowledge that the results were a disappointment. But he said that this did not prove that Labour is really gaining traction, or that many people are really on board with Labour's programme. Whereas Sir Keir Starmer, unsurprisingly, hailed the outcome as fantastic for his party. And he says, we are on course for a Labour majority the next general election. Well, cephalogically, that's true. Sir John Curtis, the UK's foremost expert on elections, say this would lead to a notional 9 percentage point lead for Labour at the next election, which would be enough for an outright majority. Not huge. Remember, 326 is the magic number in the House of Commons. So they'd get more than that, like 356, 366, something like that. But this is not Tony Blair territory. for that sort of that scale of landslide. Of course, we've probably got 18 months to go to the next election, so anything could happen. Labour could become more popular than they are, less popular than they are now. But remember, governing parties usually claw back a bit of support in the last year before an election, which is one of the reasons why the Conservatives so far behind are going to delay the election to the last possible moment, hoping something goes wrong for Labour, like Sir Keir Starmer gets caught in bed with a goat. Maybe something could go wrong with the Liberal Democrats or the SNP as well. Anyway, so Labour has won some councils in areas which are considered important: Medway in Kent, Swindon, which is in southern England, Plymouth, which I mentioned in southwest England, about the only place in the English peninsula where Labour has been strong, has held seats in recent decades. Stoke-on-Trent and East Staffordshire. Some of these Midlands places are key battlefields in any election. Southern England's mostly Conservative, Northern England mostly Labour, Scotland mostly SNP, Wales mostly Labour, the big cities mostly Labour, the countryside mostly Conservative. It's the suburban areas that could go either way. It's the English Midlands that could go either way, and that is what really is the weather vane for elections. So the BBC had a projected national vote share saying Labour on 35%, the Conservatives on 26%, and the Liberal Democrats on 20%. I was surprised that the Lib Dems do that well. I mean, the main surprise is the Lib Dems have been done rather better than forecast. Anyway, so that's obviously very good news for Labour. So this is not quite disastrous for the Conservatives. Some people say no, it really is. So yeah, I mean, there's this change of prime minister. Rishi Sunak is obviously approval ratings are negative, not as terribly negative as Liz Truss. Is he culpable for this? I mean, to some extent, he's got to be. People are often voting on national issues, not local elections, and not local issues in local elections about bin collection, council tax, provision of social care or things like that, or cycle lanes, repairing the pavements. Because remember, local council control minor roads, not motorways, parks, playgrounds, public pools, public libraries, stuff like that. Whether you're authorizing circuses on public land or fireworks, planning permission for a new hotel or a new block of flats. These are the local issues, and obviously they vary. There's a lot of particularism about this. That people think people are squabbling about in one county, they don't care about in another. Should we close the council pool? That might be a big deal in Derbyshire, but if there is no council pool in North Norfolk, I don't know, then that issue doesn't come up. But people disregard that, and turnout looks like it was only about 30%, gone down a bit, partly because this rule you had a photographic ID, a driving license, a passport, something of that nature. So anyway, so Swindon Labour took back after 20 years. And so the Conservative council leader, he said, really, the cost of living, is that it? And the government's done poorly for the past year. And that is true. And there's obviously nothing the local council can do about the cost of living. Yeah, there's been a lot of, almost chaos in the Conservative Party, though it has calmed down a little bit. So some Conservatives are openly saying that they are foredoomed when it comes to 2024, which is very likely true. So the Conservatives did have a bit of good news. They gained in Torbay, they gained in Wyre Forest, which is in the West Midlands, curious enough, where the Honourable Jacob Rees-Mogg stood for Parliament in 2001. So the Liberal Democrats have gained a dozen councils. Windsor and Maidenhead, that was a real Conservative bastion. And Maidenhead, of course, is Theresa May's seat. In 2005, they did very well with the Lib Dems. They thought they might even decapitate Theresa May as an MP, not literally. In Maidenhead in 2010, didn't quite manage it. Lib Dems have gained Stratford-upon-Avon. That's Nadeem Zahawi's seat. I mean, it's been Conservative for decades. So, yeah. Well, this is it. These are the local election results. Well, so thank you so much for watching my assessment. Goodbye.